Joe, I am. Joe was on. No, he's good.
But he wasn't there this morning.
Okay.
We got Carl. We got Rotary at 7, it's all.
I'll call the June 10th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Roll call. Emma?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Yasmi, I'm here. Fox? Here. Nobach?
Here.
Everybody's here. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved by Hema, second by Johnson to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can we get approval of the minutes for May 13th?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved by Johnson, second by Hema to approve the minutes of May 13th. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public input. Oh, okay. So we'll dispense with public input and go right into a public hearing. Variance for Dollar General. Zach, you want to give us an overview of that?
Yeah, not a problem. Per council's recommendation, the conditional use permit and variances are back in front of you guys tonight for your review. I know city council had expressed some concerns regarding the variances and decided planning commission should review it once more. Dollar General was able to make some changes to their site plan, and they did eliminate the need for that back drive aisle variance. So tonight, they're simply asking for a 9-space reduction to the parking requirement, as well as a 13.7-foot front setback variance. And of course, the conditional use permit still applies, but the representative, or at least one of the representatives from Dollar General is here tonight to discuss the revised site plan and, answer any questions you guys might have.
Okay, with that, I'll open up the public hearing for variances for Dollar General. Anybody wishing to speak, please come forward.
Thanks, man.
My name's Babe O'Gorman. I really have no concerns whatsoever about whether or not you put Dollar General in there or not. I own the property just catty corner from it, kind of. What does concern me is I just handed out to you 3 years ago, there was a variance that Rick Knowlton came in here for. If you read the bottom there, I've kind of got it earmarked. The city attorney recommends denial of any variance when the only issue is the design of the home, or the business in this case, because it's exactly the same procedure. The city may be open to challenges or possible lawsuits. Now, this was given to the city council after they denied Rick Knowlton's variance. You'd approved it. I don't think you folks have ever seen this. And the question is, why didn't you see it a month ago? Because he knows this. So why aren't we sharing information, and why aren't we treating this the same as we do every other variance or every other property? It didn't come before the city council like it did right here. This was to the city council after you approved it. Wasn't at the last council meeting. I assume you do not have it yet tonight. That's 3 times it should have been passed out, and it hasn't been at all. Now, if you recall, you did approve the Rick Knowlton variance, and it got shot down, and it says here in Neil Jensen's letter that it was done by the city attorney. Do you suppose the city attorney from Eden Prairie knows what's going on out here in Rick Knowlton's property? I don't think so. So I'm suggesting that Neil Jensen's the one that knows this. Why isn't he sharing the information with you? He's right here. Be a good question to ask, I would think. A meeting after the Rick Knowlton was denied, the Habitat for Humanity, right here on the north side, about 4 blocks away, had 2 variances. Nobody in the council said a word. There was never any issue from the city attorney. Neil Jensen never said a word. So my concern to you folks and to this body and to the city council is why aren't we consistent and uniform and treating everybody fairly and equally? That's what I'd like to know. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, babe. Anyone else wishing to address the variance?
Yeah, I'm Brian Jensen, representing Progressive Rail. Been talking with my boss today. We discussed a few things over, there's 2 points where that's gonna come with a 3.5-foot variance of the railroad tracks. That becomes a safety issue. We gotta have more area than that. And that's my only concern. I don't want nobody getting hurt, nobody getting hit. Thank you for your time.
How much clearance do you need for safety?
I believe that track is 14 feet from the outside of the track, each way.
Okay.
Is that standard a state standard or a county
But it
standard?
changes per county, per,
So what is?
railroad.
What is it? What
it
is
can be
the
anywhere from 14 feet to 50 feet to 100 feet. From the inside of the tracks.
14, 15 to 100?
It varies, if there's that much of a variance before you go, all
And
depends on
that's
where you go.
to the building?
Yep, for any building, yep.
And I'm not sure, am I seeing a spot here that's that close?
I know that the engine that we have in Cannon Falls is the 6D7 there, and that's about 4 feet over the tracks when we're riding, going down the rail.
There is no, the setbacks are good for the back, right, Zach? There's no variance requested for the back. Is that correct?
Yeah, the building meets the variance, or meets the setbacks in the RB. The drive aisle was tweaked, so it does meet those back. I mean, those are that's our city code that it meets, so right, it does meet it.
I guess I'm just concerned of somebody walking, a car being parked there. Sometimes it's 10 cars deep on me and I can't see back there. Yes, we got conductors for that. They take care of all that back there. But there could be a chance, and I don't want to take that chance, and neither does the railroad.
But is there any legal reason that they can't build the way they are right now?
As far as Dollar General?
As far as, yeah,
Okay, well,
You
where it
see
comes
anything
into
that's not-
point, the 2 points it comes into,
yeah?
if that's blacktop, who's to say the car's not gonna park there?
No, that's not blacktop.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
see-
I know Lane Letner, the second guy in charge of the railroad, he had talked to Matt about this. And that's the 2 points of interest that he did not like.
Matt, who?
I don't know. That's who you say you talked to. Matt, is it? Is that the mayor? Who's the mayor?
Yeah, Matt Montgomery?
Yeah.
Do you guys have the recent plans, like the most recent ones that we just got this week?
I don't think we do, no.
Okay. I think that would be good information for them to have before,
For the council to have.
For the railroad to have.
for the railroad to
Yeah,
have,
the
so
railroad,
they can
well,
make
that's-
some sort of
that's up to them.
legal
I assume they
determination
have
on
it
their end.
somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't get nothing.
It has changed, I guess. is-
Okay.
Um,
I haven't seen a new plan,
yeah.
so, just my concern, they told me to bring it up, and that's all I'm doing.
Who's
I'm the
they?
manager up here at the railroad, so if you guys need to get a hold of me,
So the one that told you to bring it up was your manager?
Dave Fallon, the owner.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep.
Anybody else wishing to address the public hearing?
If there's no one else, I would like to just speak briefly on behalf of the developer and Dollar General. My name is Travis Munn with Hurley and Stewart. We're the civil engineering firm that designed the site plan and are working through some of the permitting, this being one of the steps we have to go through for a client. I was the one who did attend the previous planning commission meeting via the virtual Zoom meeting. Apologize for the audio issues and miscommunication if there were any, but I felt that it was important after the council meeting to be here in person and answer any questions that you may have and do what I can to help out here. So we did take another look at the site plan after the council hearing. We did hear their concerns. We wanted to do everything we can to address all those concerns with what we're given here with the site. So a couple of the concerns that the council had, the main one that I heard anyway, was the proximity of the north drive aisle relative to the railroad track easement. So we did adjust that to move that drive aisle further south and stay out of the required setback, which is 10 feet. That's per the city code. So we're compliant with that now. We're 11 feet off of the property line. That easement, at least what's on record in the title work, is that that's a 24-foot wide overall easement for that track. And so we're well out of that as well. So we're not encroaching on the easement whatsoever. We did also reduce the building footprint. That was another point that the council kind of brought up during their discussion, was what about reducing the building to alleviate some of the issues that we're having here with this site. So we did reduce it from a 10,640 square foot building down to a 9,100 square foot building to help with that. What that also did is that also brought the parking count down. Now we still need a variance for the parking reduction, so we're asking for some relief with that. Dollar General has over 17,000 stores nationwide. They do their homework. They know what they need. For this size of store, 9,100, they require 30 parking spaces, and we're proposing 32. What we find in a lot of ordinances is that they're a little bit out of date as far as parking count, and this is what Dollar General needs. And we also, my firm specifically, we like to provide more green space than asphalt if it's not needed. So that's another reason to hopefully go with a reduction in parking. And I think we do also have a legit hardship here. With this particular site, it's an awkward shaped site. It's kind of an L shape, which makes it very difficult to put that puzzle together and try to find something that works and is variance free. And we're just, with this shape and the railroad easement running through it, we're up against a few hurdles here that make this site rather difficult to develop overall, no matter who goes there. So we're still needing that front setback variance also, and again, that is to get us as far away from that railroad, the railroad easement as possible, so we push the building south and into the front setback. So again, we are still asking for a front setback variance there. And one of the other concerns from the council was the drive on Dakota. I spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks trying to look at different ways to manipulate the site plan to get the drive as far away from the intersection of Fifth as possible. What you have in front of you is the best that I could come up with. We did end up, by reducing the building footprint a little bit, we were able to shift that drive east a little bit further from the intersection. It wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit, and also shift, as I mentioned before, the drive on Fourth a little bit further south away from the railroad tracks. So we did what we could to help alleviate some of those concerns that the council had discussed at their previous meeting. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, and here to help. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the, on the north side, the parking things there, how close is what's the closest number of feet between the parking place and the railroad track?
The drive aisle or parking stalls?
The parking stalls that run along the north
Along
side.
the very north side. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's 11 feet from the property line, and the property line is another 8 or so feet to the railroad tracks, roughly, going off memory.
So that's more than the 14 feet we were talking about for safety.
So
Yep.
I haven't looked at the map yet, but I want to take a look at that, and I'll have my boss take a look at it also.
Yep. And we did do title work and an Alta survey. So we pulled title work on the property, and in the title work, the railroad easement, like I mentioned earlier, is 24 foot wide overall. So that's, if I'm understanding that correctly, it's from the center line to the tracks. So it's 12 foot each side.
I guess I have a question, I guess, and maybe it's more towards Brian. Last month I drove past that site and I drove by it again today. It looks like the railroad is driving along that easement and maybe even over that easement. What are you using that for? There are tracks there along the left, like along the south side of the track. Yeah, there's like car tracks or whatever. Are you guys using it for anything specific, or you?
No, we just load cars out of there, unload cars, trucks, that's all we do. That's a shortcut right to it.
Okay.
It's been there ever since I've been with the railroad.
Okay. Do you know if that's within your easement or if that's just over
don't
time?
know
Okay.
that, no.
All right. Just to
I-
affect your site.
Nope, that's a good point. I was actually to the site earlier today, walked around it in detail. Didn't have an official tape measure or anything with me. I flew here today. I'm from Michigan, so I didn't bring any tools or anything with me, but just kind of paced it off. And that, I did notice that same dirt path, if you will.
Yep.
And that appears to be outside of the easement, just roughly pacing it off.
Okay. And
So I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
As this property, did I hear you right, it meets your minimum requirements? It's not a maximum, it's not, the site itself is not totally, it meets the minimum of your requirements by reducing the amount of parking space. Am I correct there?
Not the site. So the site is an awkward shape, which makes it difficult to develop and design around. But the minimum that I think that you're referring to is our parking requirement
Yeah.
internally from Dollar General. So Dollar General, for a 9,100 square foot store,
So it's
they
awkward.
require 30
Yeah,
spaces.
so it's awkward. Is this the first site that you guys moved on in town?
So my understanding, I don't get involved in the real estate side of it, but my understanding from my client, that was a question that was brought up at the council, was there was one other site that they tried. I don't know why it didn't fall through. They didn't do any design, but they approached somebody about it. I don't know why the deal didn't happen, but they couldn't come to an agreement. Whether the property owner didn't want to sell it, price was too much, I'm not sure, but this was the second site that they looked at.
Okay. You don't happen, is that something you can share with us, or don't know anything about it?
I don't know the person's name. I could find out
No,
and get back with
that's
you.
okay. I was just
Yep.
curious how this came about to be this site.
Yep.
That's all I had.
How they do it is, again, I don't get involved in the marketing side. I've just been doing this a long time, so I kind of know
Yeah.
bits and pieces of it through my experience. But Dollar General will find a point that they want to be at, and then the real estate individuals have a little bit of flexibility to go a certain distance from that specific point that they want to be. And so this would have fallen within that area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
say I was gonna ask, just the way you drew up this truck, are you expecting, or are they expecting that truck to just load off of Dakota Street onto 4th Street and roll through, or are they still coming off of 5th Street?
So, it's a good question. That was another point of concern from the council, and I think the planning commission brought that up to the last meeting. So I had drawn up that truck path as kind of a worst-case scenario if they were to come off of 5th directly into the site. I typically try to show it that way as a worst-case scenario, that it can maneuver if it needed to happen that way. But the driver will enter and exit the site as they best see fit. And really, the best way is to probably coming off of like maybe 17 down to First Street and around and either turn in off of Dakota. They would load along the back side of the building or unload, and then exit out onto Fourth, and then back out onto Dakota, or vice versa, come in on Fourth, unload behind the building, and then exit out on Dakota and back out. And, First, obviously you guys know, First Street gets a lot of traffic, heavy traffic. There's a lot of industry right there, so a lot of semi-traffic and stuff. So that is the more natural route that they will take to maneuver safely. And their deliveries for the full-size semi is typically once a week. It's not more than that, especially for a 9100. So Dollar General has 3 size stores, a 9100, 10,000, and a 12,000. 12,000s are usually twice a week. 9100s is once a week with the full-size semi. Other deliveries are a smaller box truck, a van I've even seen before. So they're usually smaller, and those will come periodically a little bit more often.
Thanks for making the effort to fly all the way over here to see us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
What would a person have to do to squeeze a little more to get rid of that setback? That front setback? So you wouldn't need a variance.
We would have
I
to,
think that's where we're hung up.
the,
That's how I feel.
the front building setback?
Now.
Yeah, I understand it. We would have to reduce, well, one thing that would help is that we do have a sidewalk on the north side of the building that's 3.5 feet wide. We could eliminate the sidewalk. We would have to reduce the drive aisle width. Right now it's 24 feet for two-way traffic. We'd have to reduce that down enough to make that front setback go away. And I'd have to double check the code. I don't know if Zach knows off the top of his head what the minimum width of a drive aisle is. I'd have to double check that myself. I don't recall off the top of my head. Yeah, 26 is curb cut. And I know two-way is 24. I don't recall what one-way is. It's usually 12 or 16, right in there.
Well, is there like a fire lane stipulation in there too then?
That's usually why that's a minimum.
That way,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. But the further that gets out of that setback, which I don't like asking for variances if we don't have to, but that pushes that building further north towards the railroad tracks. And to address some of the concerns from the railroad, we'd want to stay as far away from that as possible.
So I guess I'd just like to point out, as I was driving here today, there's two things I noticed. I mean, that existing building, that short, stocky, long building's already outside the footprint they're proposing. So it's already not meeting that setback.
It actually falls within the right-of-way,
Yeah.
technically.
And then there is utility poles beyond that building too. So just so you know, there's electrical lines going.
Are you talking on the north side now?
I'm talking about the south side.
South side.
South side.
Yeah. So that building's already not meeting our city code existing as is. And then there are utility poles there as well, right next to that building, going all the way towards Fifth Street. So there's electrical lines running from 4th Street to 5th Street along Dakota Street, I guess. Just.
And maybe this is a Zach question, is when we say we have a 25-foot setback required, I assume that's from the street,
From the right-of-way.
from the right-of-way?
Sorry, not to speak on your.
Okay, what's the reasoning behind that in terms of why that's a good number?
I suppose it's set up for businesses to, be pushed back enough from the street. But I'm not sure exactly how 25, 25 is pretty standard too for, 25, 30 is the max, so seems about right.
Travis, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can speak, civil engineer, maybe you can speak to perhaps how the road's set up. You know, my experience, sometimes there are setbacks and stuff like that. Cars run off the road. You don't want cars to hit stuff like that. It's a curbed and guttered area.
Sure.
Maybe you want to speak more on that. I don't know if that's
Yep.
something.
Yep, that's a good point. So the setbacks are established through a number of different ways. And it kind of depends on the particular area. If you're in a downtown district, usually it's a 0 setback. They want them right up by the street for a walking community. As you get out from downtown, those setbacks typically increase. You get out to maybe a major highway area, and that setback might go from 25 feet like it is here in town, it might be 90 feet. I've seen it 110. So it just kind of depends on each specific situation. But you do bring up a good point here with it being a curbed road. I mean, that is somewhat of a barrier to keep vehicles from, I mean, going fast enough, you'll jump the curb. But if they're going the speed limit and happen to go, I mean, the curb would slow them down or stop them. So, I mean, there is somewhat of a barrier there to help from a safety perspective.
So as a general rule, does Dollar General not put outside display items out? You know, like some places you'll see a row of lawnmowers or something out on the side,
So they'll put them out by the front door.
the front door.
Yep, so there's a sidewalk out front that's 9 feet wide, and they will utilize some of that space.
So no display on the south side of the
It
building?
would not be on the street side, no. A Dakota street side, but it would face Fifth.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yep,
thinking.
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then there's no pedestrian walking whatsoever between Dakota Street and the building.
No, I drove up and down there. There's no sidewalk there currently, and we're not proposing one. If that was a request from the city, that's definitely something we would provide if it was a requirement or a request, but it's not required by your code. It would tie into nothing. There's no sidewalk out
to
there.
nowhere.
Yeah. I've done a lot of those, believe it or not, sidewalks to
Sidewalk to
nowhere.
Okay.
Yep. It's a part of town that's not really, walking friendly, if you will, for lack of a better term. There's no sidewalks really out there to speak of.
Just out of curiosity, if you guys did put a sidewalk in, is that your responsibility to maintain, or is it the city's at that
It would be the
point?
cities.
Okay.
Yep, it'd be in the right of way. Mhm.
Okay, I guess I had one more question, just reading through our notes, and it's more so for Zach. I thought I saw something, and then if I'm getting ahead of myself, Steve, let me know. But I did see something about having some sort of screening potentially.
That would be with the conditional use permit.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, can't wait.
Any questions? Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the
Thank you.
public hearing? Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jim Hernke. I guess the variance, this is a different picture that I saw last week. I don't think there's any variance. I'm a property owner on the north side of the whole property of there. And that was my concern, still is my concern, as long as they make it. If they don't need a variance there, I don't have a problem with it. I don't know where else they need a variance, but if they do need a variance, I guess I'm not for it. And my personal opinion is I think this is the wrong place to put a place like this in there for a number of reasons. Like you said, there's nobody walking there. There's not a public in that area. It's an industrial area, and it was industrial, residential industrial at one time, and now it's business. Nothing we can do with it, but that's my opinion.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Anybody else willing to address the public hearing? Second call, anybody willing to address the public hearing? Third and last call, anybody willing to address the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Committee,
I guess I don't think I can make a decision until we hear from Progressive Rail with the latest plans. I think they need time to look at it. I think that was the mayor's concern when they sent it back to us. I think we'd roll that way. So I would motion to, I guess, delay or whatever the proper term is.
Okay, and I agree with the safety issue. I thought they said 14 feet and it was a greater distance than that to the parking spot. Or am I
Yeah,
mistaken?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I agree. I don't see that we need to, I guess if we get that or if the council gets that information that there's an issue, we could put that as part of the,
there is no variance request for that north side. So I guess,
the idea that it's a safety issue has to be proved, we need
I guess
more
my thing is,
information from the railroad.
have they had the ability to digest all the information? They had the ability to digest the old plan set. Are they able to, do they have the ability to actually offer the correct public input based off of the most recent plans is my concern.
Who has the ability?
The
Railroad?
railroad, anybody else of the public, I guess
Well-
we're just passing around a sheet.
And those issues could certainly come before the council before they approve this. But I don't see any reason to stop moving ahead at this point based on what someone said, and I respect that they have safety issues. I'm the first one that would go for that, but I also don't see a reason that should delay it at this point. They could stop it at the council, but I don't see that that's something that we're gonna, I would have no problem with moving on with this. But I would say with the idea that if there is a safety issue, that be part of the final discussion by the council. Because we've had this come up before where things are said, but unless there's some documentation or real reason for it, I think they're doing a lot of, they're doing a lot of things here good to try to make this work. And I guess I'd put that on the council, and if we can put that, that's the way I would propose going ahead, is that I'd propose going ahead with this with, what would you call it?
Conditional
A
upon.
conditional discussion on safety that would be presented by the railroad.
And that would be presented in front of the
They
council?
could do it, yeah,
Yeah, we only make a recommendation.
yeah, we're just,
Council will have the final say.
but,
I guess and I don't want to interrupt, but
no, that's fine.
with the exception of the railroad safety issue, do you have a problem with the variance on the setback or the variance on the parking?
No. I feel like they're trying to do what we asked them to with the parking, The variance, like I said, on the south side, there's already something existing that's, as we find out, is in city right away, so I don't have a problem with that.
So what you said.
Yeah, so I mean, we could recommend approval of this to the city council with the stipulation that the railroad check the distances and make sure that there's no safety issue.
Okay.
Does that sound like what we want to do, or, I mean, unless we don't want to approve it at all, but I do think for Dollar General's sake, we should let them know sooner than later whether they can move ahead with this or if they need to look elsewhere.
That seems fair to me. I mean, they've certainly made a lot of adjustments to the plan that they presented the first time.
And I was gonna say, I've had people look at me and express either they really want it there, they really don't want it there. And I keep thinking, you know, we're not to decide what kind of business goes
Right.
where, as long as it conforms, you know, but we don't get to decide if we want a hairdresser there, or a Dollar General, or a oil change company.
But yeah, if there's some legal reason for safety, you know, they can present it, railroad can present it.
Because we certainly don't want to squish anybody.
What if you offered, or if they offered to put up a fence along that north side, so they'd have to head to either Fourth Street or Fifth Street
You mean to stop public from walking through there?
from walking across, well, it'd be walking across private property anyhow. But I can see it happening. They cut across there to go home. I can.
Could that be put in as a condition for the?
Well, maybe in the site plan, you'd put a fence up, so that they couldn't get over it, you know, and not a 4-footer where they can jump over, but,
Well, I think that's on the railroad.
no, that'd be on Dollar General.
If the railroad moves through there about like 2 miles an hour.
Yeah,
With supervision, am I correct? There's always someone right there when you're moving the rail through. It's not like they're barreling through.
Right.
And can't
I-
stop
Run
or
a
see
5-mile-an-hour track.
Yeah,
And you were more concerned about like a car tipping over
yeah,
than
Like
somebody
parking,
running through the,
trucks.
yeah.
So forth, that'd be the only thing.
but yeah, I mean, it's certainly a possibility for,
just heard that there was concern of people walking across the tracks.
there's not really much to walk to across the tracks there.
It's not a big residential area, is it? What do you get? But I mean, yeah, it always can happen. Happens all the time.
Just another thought, and
Yeah.
since we're in the discussion part of it, when this very first came up, I often wondered why they didn't put the building north and south on the west side of in the fat area of the lot, and the parking lot on the, have you ever given that consideration? And would you be able to make that fit then without the variances?
Turn it around 90 degrees?
Well, it's a lot wider, and you probably wouldn't need variances then.
So that was one of the options that I did look at when we went back to the drawing board here after the council hearing. We would still need a front setback variance. The building was just long enough where it stuck out into the front setback. Now, it was significantly reduced, but the downside of that is that put the back of the building closer to the railroad tracks. If you're talking about the west side, the north-south, yes, it put it closer to the railroad tracks than what we are now. So, my opinion, I felt that putting the building where it is now was a safer option, to keep the building further away.
I just see it's wider on that end, and maybe you could fit it in the setbacks with that.
Right, yep, exactly. That was exactly the site plan that I first came up with after the council meeting, and it just didn't seem to work as well. But that was my original thought, and it's a good idea, but it didn't work, unfortunately.
How far would it have been off?
So I did keep the back of the building within that north setback, which I believe is 15 feet. So it was 15 feet off of, if I'm not mistaken, 15 feet off the north property line, which is closer than where we are now. There's a dimension on there, I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it's 30-some feet right now.
And I understand the
Nobody's got it roughed in there.
front of the building wouldn't be facing the state highway, I get that.
Yep, yep.
But I look at it and say, if I was trying to meet everything, I would try to put it there, but.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't eliminate the need for a variance. And that goes back to the legit hardship of the awkward shape of the property and the railroad tracks kind of cutting through a portion of it. Trying to work around a lot of things here. Thank you.
Speak,
Chris,
Jesse,
you want to
anything?
make a motion or not?
No, I just think, I think if, as you guys proposed, if there's some sort of, I guess my main concern would be safety there on the north side, and it sounds like they're meeting everything. But if we could get it sounds like it was sent back to us so we could get all the Progressive Rail's input. Now they have the latest plan. If we motion to move it forward, I want them to have the ability to go to council or whoever and still give their spiel and make sure that everything's looks good from their end in terms of safety, not just what they want or what they're doing, but,
Yeah.
and I think, as we discussed, I have no problem with the variance on the south side, so, or the parking.
And I will move that we recommend council approve whatever this variance is, subject to the railroad getting back to us on the safety issue on the north side.
Getting back to the council.
Yeah, getting back to the council.
Yeah.
pardon me. Which I think gives you till Tuesday.
I'll get it right to them right away in the morning.
I think that seems really, I'll second that.
Motion by Johnson, second by Hema to approve the variance request with the stipulation that the railroad comes back with their blessing. Is that how I can state it?
I guess it's the two variances, the parking and the,
Yep, the variance
setback.
request, yep. Any further discussion? I'm going to abstain due to conflict of interest. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So next, we're going to have a public hearing on a conditional use permit for Dollar General. Zach?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing that was already discussed. Obviously, they're gonna need a conditional use permit to operate retail in the RB zone, so that's what this request is for. And there should be in your packet there, there's a couple attachments that go along with the conditional use permit, as long as they meet those conditions. And you guys obviously just approve the variances, then that will kind of solve that, so.
So with that, I'll open up the public hearing for the conditional use permit for Dollar General. Anybody wishing to speak, please come forward. Second call, anyone wishing to speak on the conditional use permit? Third and last call, anybody wishing to speak? I'll close the public hearing. Committee.
I think we already went over this, and nothing much has changed. They want to.
Turn his mic on.
Can we just, oh, thank you. Can we just move to accept?
If there's no discussion,
Did we want to talk about the screening at all? I just saw it was a,
I think we should, or, I'm gonna abstain, but I think you should put a stipulation in there for that fence.
I'm just curious, the way I read city code, whatever, retail commercial activities provided that when abutting a residential use of buffer area with screening and landscaping in compliance with, I believe that's statute 152-279. Essentially, abutting residential use would be, how I read it, is what residential properties are abutting it, I guess.
Right, and there are none, so technically they wouldn't be required to, provide any screening. And I kind of think that leaves the door open for you guys if you want to attach any stipulations to the CUP, would probably be a time to do that.
Any discussion on that?
Can I make a motion now?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the resolution for the conditional use permit.
Second.
Is that you, Jesse?
Yeah.
Motion by Hema, second by Fox to move the conditional use permit request to the council. Any further discussion? I'll be abstaining. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item of business. Discussion on the Bethel's Rock Church. Zach?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I know there's some people from Bethel's Rock here tonight. I believe this is kind of what they were thinking, hoping to buy the building where the current Grand O2 Event Center is, and they want to operate a church in one half of the building, and then lease out the other half to Grand O2. Since churches aren't a permitted use, this falls in the B2 zone, they initially submitted a conditional use permit, but upon further review, it was discovered religious institutions aren't one of the conditional uses in the B2 zone. Currently, all churches are zoned to operate in residential areas. So Bethel's Rock and some representatives are here tonight to discuss some possible solutions to be able to operate at this location. I know one idea might be to rezone the property, so they're hoping to get some preliminary thoughts and get Planning Commission's opinion on this matter.
Good, thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Pastor Brandon. I'm the pastor at Bethel's Rock Church, Cannon Falls. We are a church plant. We launched in November of 2022. We've been going ever since, and we're currently utilizing an evening service at the First Congregation Church in town here. And as we're growing, we're looking for more opportunity for a place better suited for us to meet. And so that's when actually one of our congregants personally knows Bruce from Bruce Investments, or Omen Investments, who currently owns that facility, so he had reached out to us. So currently we are under a purchase agreement with them, but part of our purchase agreement is to be able to utilize it as a church. So we wanted to come forward and just discuss opportunities on how we can best utilize it as a church, because we believe that we can benefit that area. I know that there was an Assemblies of God church over there at one point. There was a Christian Life church that was right over across from Ferndale Market.
Yep, that was in the township.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. But I just mean the general area, we would like to just be a kind of a life-giving place within there. Currently, right now, we actually lead a group on Thursday nights at the Valley View Recovery Center. So it would be great to be able to be within close proximity of that, to better support them, because as of right now, it is just currently a rehab facility, and they used to have a pastor that would come on Wednesdays, but he's no longer coming down. So just to be in close proximity, to be able to give and offer religious services to them, it would be beneficial for us there. And then we do believe that us as a church operating out of there, I think it would be more of an inter-community type church, since of the location and the view from the freeway. So we believe that it could help bring more people to the community as well. And just to give a background, we are a Bethel's Rock church, but we are a church plant. So we are currently breaking off. We were affiliated with Bethel's Rock Church in Farmington, Richfield, and Apple Valley. We actually have the paperwork. We become incorporated, and this Sunday we actually have a vote to become our own general council church through the Assemblies of God General Council. So we are moving. We will be a community church. I personally have moved. I have a wife and 5 sons. We have moved to Cannon Falls. This is where we live. This is where we want to raise our kids, and we would love to be able to operate a church out of that building. So just opening up for further discussion on that. Yes.
Were you planning eventually to ask for the building to be removed from the property tax roll?
I think the assessor, it would not be a full removal, because if we were leasing to the Grand O2 Center, it wouldn't be a complete, they would have to assess and determine which use would be the Grand O2, and we would have to be taxed on that portion, since we would be receiving an income off of that, and that would not be a nonprofit. So it would be a partial request, not a full. And we would leave it up to the assessors to determine what use would be for that.
And then if eventually your congregation grew enough, you might actually take over the whole building. I'm assuming that would be a possibility in the future.
It is a possibility. As the facility is set up right now, I'm not sure if you're familiar, it used to be the Midwest. They had I believe I forget what they call it. It was a showroom. Currently, that room is what we would utilize as a sanctuary, and that can currently, with exits, easily seat 200, and we could move to 2 to 3 services even, and substantially. I don't foresee needing to expand into the entire building anytime soon, if ever. We're trying to be a benefit to the community. We're not trying to. I know that the Grand O2 Center has been a great benefit to the community. I know it's been used for a lot of community events. I know even for the teenager that passed away, that they held the funeral there, and so we have no intentions of moving them out of there. So as long as Omen Investments or Grand O2 Center would like to stay, I don't foresee us trying to expand into that bottom portion of that. I think that we can utilize just the top portion for the foreseeable
Is there
future.
parking upstairs too?
Yes, there is. There is a lot upstairs. I don't have the count of the current spaces, but there is a lot upstairs, and then there is a lower lot as well. And part of the purchase agreement was that we would determine, and we would try not to utilize the church during events, so he would no longer offer, I guess, during Sunday morning services, but so that there wouldn't be an overflow of parking, and we would have ample parking for both the event center and then us as well.
I have a question.
Yes,
What kind
sir.
of facilities are available in that building? I'm not familiar with it since I used to play racquetball there, I think, 100 years ago.
No, that's not the one.
Not the one, it's close to it, though.
It's the main Midwest office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm correct. Okay, what kind of facilities are in this space?
It's currently an office facility, and the basement has been converted into an event center. So upstairs, it is all office space.
Do you have elevator?
Yes, it does, sir.
Does it have bathrooms?
Yes, sir.
I mean, for handicap?
Yes, sir.
Has handicap accessible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about a commercial kitchen?
It does have a commercial area. It does not have any stoves in it.
Doesn't have any stoves or dishwashers?
I believe it is prepared for. I'm not sure if it's zoned or if he has gotten it to be. I believe it's considered a commercial kitchen. There is a walk-in freezer, and then there is also. There's not.
No, it wouldn't be if it didn't have a dishwasher or
There is not. No,
yeah,
no, sir.
or probably not then.
Okay.
Just. those are all
I'm
the
hung up
questions.
on the
Yes.
zoning.
Okay.
The biggest thing is, and I talked to Zach on it, I'm just so dead against spot zoning, because although, yeah, okay, it would be good for you, but all those people out there that are waiting to do the same thing for different, various types of businesses, they're gonna come in and say, okay, this is precedent setting, now what do we do, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So, I'm not sure what, our options are with that.
If you don't mind me saying, currently with the zoning, a theater, an office, a clinical center, and a hospitality area all fall within those zoning permits. I do understand that religious organization is not part of it, but if you look at those, I mean, yes, a theater is drastically different, but if you look at people are seating in front of a stage where we would be very similar, as well as a clinical. I do regular counseling out of the facility we're in right now, so I think that there would be similar uses being utilized as things that currently fall within the zoning of B2.
But not a religious.
Well, and I think to look at it, the activities that will go on at the church are not that different from the activities that are there. My concern would be the property tax exemption, because when we have a business district, I'm assuming we want to have taxes appropriate to businesses, which are usually higher than residential, right, business people? And so, it's one thing to lose the property tax on a church in a residential area as opposed to losing the property tax in an area designated business, which could generate a whole lot more taxes, which then means we have less money for the city, if that makes sense. Because I certainly want your church to succeed.
Absolutely.
And I certainly know we have limited areas to expand to.
Exactly.
But I keep wondering if we should keep our business zoning for things that might generate more tax income to the city, so that we have people here to go to church.
If I can bring up, my request would not be to even rezone it, but just to be able to utilize it as a B2. I am aware, our intentions would never be to fully remove. I know there would be a partial removal due to what the assessor would assess on the property for what the tax exemption would be. I believe that we can still be quite a benefit to the community. I understand that the tax purposes may not quite be there, but I think we can bring other aspects to the city as well on top of finances.
The only way you're gonna get a tax benefit, you would have to file as a religious organization.
Yes, sir.
And that's not permitted in that zone.
Okay.
That's where our hangup is right now. I don't know.
That has nothing to do with the assessor.
What?
That doesn't have anything to do with the assessor.
If they file as a religious organization to get their tax break.
Right, the assessor will determine whether or not to take the property off the tax rolls. And that doesn't matter if it's zoned correctly or
We're
not.
not that far yet,
Okay,
because they cannot be there with this zoning that's in place.
unless we make some kind of an exception.
A spot zone is what I'm completely dead against, and I think that's a bad thing.
We don't have an overabundance of these kind of B2 property. I mean, it's not, we need all the B2 we can get. What's that? Yeah, it's not like we have a surplus of.
The thing I think about, Zach, and maybe you can answer this, is even if you did rezone it, now can the Grand O2 operate out of that building under a residential, if you did a residential zone or an RB zone?
Well, I guess in 2024, our city code pretty much, if you're a church, if you're religious, any synagogue, whatever, religious organization, institution, you have to be in the R1, R2, R3, or the residential business. So I guess the only, and that's why we're here tonight to kind of discuss the possibilities, the avenues. The only thing I can see rezoning would be to an RB, because there's going to be a residential use like a church and a business, the Grand O2. Both of those are by conditional use. So they could operate, but would the Grand O2 then have to come back and apply for, I mean, then it would technically would be out of compliance.
Then they would be out of
It would be
compliance.
conditional use, right?
Would there be any issue with Grand O2 serving alcohol and that? I guess that's just one thing that does happen at events there. Is that an issue in that zoning, that type of rezoning, or?
That's a good question. I guess I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, most establishments that serve alcohol are not zoned RB, so it's a good point.
I think we got some more work to do.
Okay. I do have just one thing to bring up. Rather than rezoning, but if we look at, actually, there's a Religious Land Use Institutionalized Person Act. It was passed in 2000. And that does give the opportunity for religious organizations to utilize any zoning in concurrence with it. And it's a U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division funded. It's a federally backed situation. So that's, I guess, the question to see if we could just utilize it as a B2, then it would not affect the Grand O2 whatsoever. They could still get at least partial taxes out of the Grand O2. And then, I mean, we just want to use the upstairs. That's our only intention, to use the upstairs, not to change the community, but to use a portion of a building that's not currently in use, where, I mean, a theater, an office, a clinical, general office supplies could use it right now, where we just intend to use it for different purposes. And I think that we would be best beneficial than leaving it as is. I don't know if you've seen the office space necessity recently, but it's not too high. So we're just looking to benefit it in that aspect.
Well, I guess I'm all for you going forward with it, but I'm just so set against rezoning it from anything that it is now. It's my problem.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna be an uphill climb if you try to get it, I think.
well, and with that act, you wouldn't need to rezone it. It could stay a B2.
The Federal Justice Department, I believe, ruled that communities cannot restrict where religious organizations put their buildings.
Well,
They can,
not where they put, if they build a building.
or I think they're allowed to operate out of any zoning code. They could go out in the middle of the
So-
industrial site.
So you
and
want to run it by our city attorney?
I would think that might be a good idea. Because I do remember something about that lawsuit, and I think it has been used in
Yeah,
other
and-
communities.
I want to come to an agreement without utilizing that. I just want to bring that up, that part of the discussion, that it is an avenue we can look into as well. That way, we wouldn't need to rezone anything, and it could stay exactly where it is. But that's not the intention, is to necessarily just do that. It's to discuss what would best benefit the city and still allow us to be able to utilize that facility.
Okay.
I'd like to say something. I agree with the rezoning. I'm not a big fan of that. And for me, part of that is as much as everybody likes to think everything is going to go right. If it doesn't, then in 5 years or 10 years, and you guys no longer wish to own it and run this business, you maybe want to move somewhere else. Now we have a spot here that's residential business, which comes with a certain set of rules, does it not, that are different, which could lead us into
I think it's called quandary.
right as to what is going to end up there next is kind of the,
Well,
right? Do we?
And I think that's a very good point. So instead of rezoning the property, I think what you're looking at is saying, we redo our building or our zoning codes to allow, if our attorney says that this should happen, religious organizations to locate in any zoning code, if that's what the Justice Department ruled, and,
If that's what the law states. I'm just looking at all avenues.
yeah, that that instead of redoing the zoning, we reevaluate where we allow religious institutions, faith-based institutions to operate within the town. And do that with whatever's in keeping with federal law, which I'm pretty sure we have to follow.
And
Does
if,
that make sense? More sense?
Yeah, I think we just gotta look into it deeper and make sure everybody's happy. And
if you don't mind me asking,
Need to know.
when could I expect to find a response to that?
Our group only meets usually once a month.
Okay.
What are we gonna respond to? What are we gonna respond to?
Well, I think
are you,
Neil
you
said,
the one that emailed me? Well, I have her email,
okay,
so
Yeah.
we
I mean,
we
not
can
who, but
communicate
why.
that way, right?
Yeah.
Is that
it's-
I
okay?
think we have to
Yeah,
find
as
out
long
with
as-
the attorney whether or not,
Yeah,
if we are required by federal law
I understand, okay.
to
so-
allow
So,
religious institutions in any zoning code.
so this needs to go through the city attorney,
Okay.
that simple.
They might not be back if that's the fact.
They might not be back?
I'll work,
Might not be, I understand, but that's,
Yeah.
that's
how
the
about,
only
I'll work
option.
with Neil and
Okay.
keep you in the loop, and then you,
So,
then, we'll talk to the city attorney, and then
Yeah.
we'll see where we're at.
okay. And when can we expect, we're currently under a purchase agreement and with time coming for the assessor to make their assessment and a closing date looming, would
End of week.
end of week be an able answer?
I can forward you all the stuff from like our real estate office. It just has all the acts and different things that they passed to me from our
That would help,
attorney.
yeah.
So I could just
There
like,
was-
feed you everything that we've gotten.
There was just an update on it on March 19th of 2024 that
So
we
it's-
can forward you.
Shelley's pretty responsive.
Okay.
Do, would that have to go to a council vote to amend the zoning code then? No.
I think we gotta see what they say.
Let's just see what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know anything.
So are we planning on just holding off to the next meeting?
Yeah, we're not, this was just for discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's really what we're here for, is to kind of help people get the horse in front of the cart, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, I don't see that.
So you okay with that answer? You didn't get to talk much.
No, I was just here for support.
All right.
thank you.
Thank you
So
very
I'll follow
much.
back up
You.
with you, Steve, okay? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
Good luck.
Do I need a,
Move to adjourn.
you move to adjourn,
I
Hella?
do, yes, I do. I always do that early.
I'll second.
Second by Nobach. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right.